Hey everybody, this is Andre here with the Kevin Breeze channel, and in this video, we're going to be doing a comparison between the Samsung Galaxy A32 5G and the Samsung Galaxy A31. To get more information on the pricing, availability, or just general info about the phones themselves, definitely check the link in the description. Let's get started. So the Samsung Galaxy A32 5G has a 6.5-inch TFT display with a resolution of 720p, a PPI of 270, an aspect ratio of 20:9, and a screen-to-body ratio of 81.6%. There's a water drop notch here for the front-facing camera, and this camera is 13 megapixels. The Samsung Galaxy A31 has a 6.4-inch Super AMOLED display with a resolution of 1080p, a PPI of 411, an aspect ratio of 20:9, and a screen-to-body ratio of 84.9%. This phone also has a front-facing camera that is a water drop, and this camera is 20 megapixels. So far, display and design-wise, this is sort of looking like a downgrade. The Samsung Galaxy A32 5G only has a TFT display, so they got rid of the Super AMOLED that was in the Samsung Galaxy A31, which is pretty unfortunate because the Super AMOLED makes the colors a lot brighter, and the display went from 1080p to 720p, so again, pretty disappointing. The Samsung Galaxy A32 5G does have a tiny bit larger screen, but it's really barely noticeable, especially when you factor in how much better quality the display of the Samsung Galaxy A31 is. So in that department, I would say the Samsung Galaxy A31 does have a better display, and it is a little bit of a downgrade. Now, both of them do have the water drop notch on their front-facing camera. I don't like the water drop notch, so I don't think either of these look very good. But at least the Samsung Galaxy A31 does look a bit more modern, partially because its display is better and partially because it's a lot thinner. Not only are the bezels noticeably thinner on the Samsung Galaxy A31, but the phone itself. Now, as you can see here, the Samsung Galaxy A32 5G is much thicker than the Samsung Galaxy A31, and I don't know why. They have the same battery, so it couldn't be that, and I wouldn't think the processor would make this kind of difference either. So I don't know what it is that gave them the need to make the Samsung Galaxy A32 5G this much thicker, or any thicker for that matter, than the Samsung Galaxy A31. It just doesn't make sense to me, and I don't like it. Now, both of these phones are getting 128 gigabytes of internal storage with microSD card expansion, so this hasn't changed. This is one thing I really do like about both of these phones. 128 gigabytes of internal storage, especially with microSD card expansion, is a great amount of storage. You're going to be able to do a lot with this, whether it's apps or photos and videos or both. It doesn't really matter because there's so much space. These days, apps are getting larger and larger, and so is the system. So taking a look at the storage right now, as you can see on the Samsung Galaxy A32 5G and on the Samsung Galaxy A31, the system is huge, taking up 17.92 gigabytes on the Samsung Galaxy A32 5G and 19.6 gigabytes on the Samsung Galaxy A31. Just imagine what it would be like if the storage was only 32 gigabytes. That would be almost everything, and you'd have barely enough for apps. As you can see right here, these phones both have around 5 gigabytes of apps. The Samsung Galaxy A32 5G has around 5 gigabytes of apps. In the case of the Samsung Galaxy A31, it has 24 gigabytes of apps on it. So this is really a lot of space. If these phones were 32 gigabytes, there's no way they'd be able to hold all of this. Even 64, which a lot of mid-range smartphones end up being, is still not really gonna cut it. In this day and age, you're still gonna have to be careful about what you put on your phone and what you really need on there. Whereas with 128, you definitely are gonna have a lot more freedom to organize what you store on it however you see fit. Now, neither of these phones have wireless charging, but both of them have fingerprint scanners. And this is another thing I would definitely say is an improvement from the Samsung Galaxy A31 to the Samsung Galaxy A32 5G. The fingerprint scanner on the Samsung Galaxy A31 is in the display, which looks cool, but is not quite as practical as the one on the Samsung Galaxy A32 5G, which is right on the power button. You really can't beat having a fingerprint scanner on the power button because by default, this phone doesn't even wake up when you tap the screen. So you're going to be pressing the power button most likely anyway to even wake it up. So being able to just touch the power button and the phone unlocks is definitely a cool feature. But then again, that being said, it doesn't look as good as having it in the display because this really does give the phone a nice modern touch. And I really like that as an addition to the nice design that this phone has. It's so thin and sleek. It has the big high quality Super AMOLED display and thin bezels, so the fingerprint scanner in the display does make a lot of sense. Either way, both of these are going to be great, so we're going to test them out and see how they actually perform. Starting with the fingerprint scanner for the Samsung Galaxy A32 5G. There we go, one more time. So it's really fast and responsive as expected. Let's move on to the Samsung Galaxy A31. One more time. So as you can see, there were no issues with either of them. It really comes down to personal preference, which one is better. I personally do value the functionality of the Samsung Galaxy A32 5G fingerprint scanner over the looks of the Samsung Galaxy A31, but at the same time, the difference is so small in the grand scheme of things that it's really up to you whether or not it actually matters. The bottom line is both of them have fingerprint scanners, which phones like the iPhone don't. So that's an advantage in itself, and both of the fingerprint scanners actually work well, whereas a lot of phones that do have fingerprint scanners still don't have good ones, so it's something to keep in mind. These ones are really good. Both of these phones also have face unlock, which is nice. It's good to have both options just to minimize the chance that you actually have to put the pin in, because putting a pin in this day and age just feels so archaic and inconvenient that I personally like to avoid it at all costs. Now, taking a look at the camera setup of these two phones, the Samsung Galaxy A32 5G has a 48 megapixel rear camera, an 8 megapixel ultra wide camera, a 2 megapixel depth sensing camera, and a 5 megapixel macro camera. The Samsung Galaxy A31 also has a 48 megapixel rear camera, an 8 megapixel ultra wide camera, a 5 megapixel depth sensing camera, and a 5 megapixel macro camera. So technically the Samsung Galaxy A31 has a slightly higher megapixel depth sensing camera, but that doesn't really matter a whole lot because all that's used for is portrait mode, and there are a lot of factors that determine the quality of portrait mode, so I don't really count that as much of a difference. But I'm going to show you some examples to give you a better idea of the quality of these cameras. So these pictures were taken with the rear cameras of both phones. This one was taken by the Samsung Galaxy A32 5G, and this one was taken by the Samsung Galaxy A31. Now I do think that it is a little bit of an improvement from the A31 to the A32 5G. You can tell if you look really closely that the image on the Samsung Galaxy A32 5G is a little bit sharper and a little bit better quality, whereas even though the brightness and the colors are more vivid on the Samsung Galaxy A31, the image is not quite as sharp, and a lot of the brightness of the color could be due to having a Super AMOLED display in 1080p versus a TFT display in 720p. So that is a factor, but from what I can tell, even though the difference isn't huge, I definitely see the Samsung Galaxy A32 5G having a slightly better image taken with the rear camera. Now this same principle applies even more so with the ultra-wide camera. Again, even though the colors are more distinct on the Samsung Galaxy A31, a lot of that could be due to the display, and likely that is the case, but I can definitely see a lot more quality in the picture taken by the Samsung Galaxy A32 5G. Now these pictures were taken with the front camera of each phone. Again, I would say the Samsung Galaxy A32 5G does have a better quality front-facing camera, even though the Samsung Galaxy A31 does still have a good image. It's also interesting to point out that the Samsung Galaxy A31 has a 20 megapixel front-facing camera versus 13 megapixels in the front-facing camera of the Samsung Galaxy A32 5G, which just goes to show that megapixels really are not everything, and one phone with lower megapixels can still be better than one with higher megapixels. Both phones have great cameras in every way, so it is nice to see that, but I do think the camera is one area in the Samsung Galaxy A32 5G that is definitely an improvement with the Samsung Galaxy A31. If only the A32 5G actually had the display to go along with that, but unfortunately it doesn't. Now in video mode, there is another improvement as well. While the Samsung Galaxy A31 is only able to shoot 1080p in both cameras, the Samsung Galaxy A32 5G is actually able to shoot 4K in the rear camera, still limited to 1080p in the front camera. But it's nice that this phone is able to shoot 4K videos now. Again, the big disappointment about all of this is the display of the Samsung Galaxy A32 5G is quite limiting. Being able to shoot 4K videos on your camera of your phone, but not being able to view them in anything above 720p is definitely a letdown. So that is unfortunate, but at least it is able to shoot that. And again, the camera in general is just an overall upgrade from the Samsung Galaxy A31. Now internally, the Samsung Galaxy A32 5G is getting 6GB of RAM with the MediaTek Dimensity 725G processor, and the Samsung Galaxy A31 is getting 4GB of RAM with the MediaTek Helio P65 processor. Now we ran Geekbench 5 benchmark tests on both of these phones, and the Samsung Galaxy A32 5G came back with a single core score of 472 and a multi-core score of 1520, whereas the Samsung Galaxy A31 came back with a single core score of 352 and a multi-core score of 1238. So again, quite an upgrade from the Samsung Galaxy A31 to the A32 5G, and that does make sense because a 5G phone logically would have a faster processor. That's not always the case, but in this case it is, and I am glad about that. Both of these phones are going to perform really well doing your daily normal tasks up to browsing the web and consuming content. That should be all pretty easy with these phones. In addition to that, photo and video editing should go pretty well, as well as a little bit of gaming, but the Samsung Galaxy A32 5G is going to be able to do it a little bit better. To give you an idea of what these phones can do, I'm going to do a little demonstration. We're going to start by opening Google Chrome. So as you can see there, as expected, the Samsung Galaxy A32 5G did open a little bit faster. We're going to try a web page real quick and see if this is consistent. So the Samsung Galaxy A32 5G was a little bit faster, as we could see there. We're going to try one more page. And once again, the Samsung Galaxy A32 5G was faster. So you can see, even though the difference isn't huge, it is there, and this is going to carry over to other activities as well. Whether you're browsing the web, streaming videos, or doing photo editing or gaming, it's definitely going to make a difference having a little bit more processing power with the Samsung Galaxy A32 5G as opposed to the Samsung Galaxy A31, but both of them are really good and should perform well. Now, as I believe I mentioned before, both of these phones do have the same battery. They have a 5,000 milliamp hour battery that supports 15 watt fast charging. It does make sense that this is the same, since that's pretty much the biggest battery you can get. I don't see why they would need to change it, so that is good. This battery is really powerful and is going to give you not only lots of life per charge, but longevity as well. Now, in conclusion, which one of these phones is better? Is the Samsung Galaxy A32 5G actually an upgrade from the Samsung Galaxy A31? Based on a holistic view of everything, I would say yes. I'm only hesitant to say a definitive yes, just because the display is such a downgrade from the Samsung Galaxy A31. Going from a Super AMOLED to a TFT display, not only that, but 1080p to 720p, it does somewhat negate some of the benefits, like being able to shoot video in 4K with the rear camera and having a faster processor that can stream content better. And a lot of that stuff, even the larger screen, if it was a Super AMOLED display and 1080p instead, the Samsung Galaxy A32 5G would have so much better of an experience, in my opinion. Not only that, but I do think the A31 just looks a little bit better. The A32 5G, again, is so thick compared to the Samsung Galaxy A31, not only with the phone itself, but also the bezels. The Samsung Galaxy A32 5G has the look and feel of just a straight up cheap phone, whereas it's actually technically a better phone than the Samsung Galaxy A31. So overall, even though the features and performance of the A32 5G are definitely better and definitely improved from the camera to the processor and a lot of other things. I do think that they could have done a lot better with the design. I wish they put a hole punch front-facing camera on it instead, especially considering other Samsung Galaxy A series phones do have hole punch front-facing cameras. I would think that another 5G version of one would actually have a nicer looking front-facing camera and a nicer looking design overall. That being said, I still think both of them are great phones. And if you want to get any more information about the pricing, availability, or the phones in general, definitely check the link in the description. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, definitely leave a thumbs up and subscribe. And as always, I'll see you guys in the next video.